Well, good day. I'm Martin Tyner with the Southwest Wildlife Foundation, and this is one of my very best friends. This is Scout, the golden eagle, and Scout's kind of my buddy, and he's our wildlife ambassador as well as one of my falconry birds. The golden eagle is truly a magnificent animal, and I feel incredibly fortunate that I can call a wild golden eagle one of my best friends. So let me kind of introduce Scout to you a little bit. First, we'll talk about his physical characteristics. What you're looking at here is truly the lion of the sky. These are an apex predator. The truth of the matter is there is the golden eagle and everything else is what he eats. So they are pretty much the top predator, certainly here in Utah where I live. There are other eagles around the world that are the king of the hill in their parts of the world as well, but the golden eagle is certainly ours. Now, my golden eagle, if you look at those feet right there, magnificent talons. The halex, which is the back one, is a good 4 to 5 inches long. What you're looking at there is that is a killing machine. He has comfy. Show him your toes. He has approximately 600 pounds per square inch of crushing power in those feet. He can drive those talons through the glove that I'm wearing and crush the small bones of my hand. It's really good. He likes me. We do appreciate that. Um, my eagle has over 7,000 feathers. 7,000. Now, there are many native people around the world that believe that if you say your prayers with an eagle feather, the eagle feather will carry your prayers to God. I've got 7,000 of them right here, so I'm in really good shape. All 7,000 feathers are very, very lightweight. They're hollow. They're just very, very well organized hairs, what a feather is. And all 7,000 feathers weigh about 2 pounds, 2.5 pounds in weight.
So
So
how,
they're
wait, hang
very,
on, hang
very
on a
light.
second. How'd you get that number? How do you know 7,000? You count them?
I did not count them. That's just the statistics in a scientific journal about golden eagles that I read. So I'm
How
going
do
to take
you
their word for it.
how do you think they figured that out?
Well, I think that it's like everything else. You have the major flight feathers, which is the biggest ones. They have the body feathers, and you figure the amount of feathers per square inch, kind of a thing, and then estimate. So that's why I say approximately 7,000 feathers. So they have lots and lots and lots of feathers, and like I said, the feathers are very, very lightweight. The bones of birds or bones are hollow, so his entire skeletal structure, again, only about 2.5 pounds in weight. Yet there's a portion of my eagle's body that represents half his total body weight, and that's the large chest muscles right here, the pectoral muscles. And these large chest muscles are the motors that he uses to drive that beautiful 6 foot wingspan that allows eagles to fly where hawks and falcons cannot. For eagles like this golden eagle have been spotted at altitudes greater than 30,000 feet. And this eagle can comfortably soar in a 40-mile-an-hour wind, which would ground a hawk or a falcon. And of course, the eyesight of an eagle is legendary. This eagle weighs approximately 8 pounds, so they're very light. This 8 pound creature has eyes that are larger than ours. They have can see approximately 8 times further than we can. They have 6 times the number of cells in the back of the eye, the rods and cones that we have. So everything an eagle sees is 6 times clearer. This eagle can and does spot jackrabbits 5 miles away. And so that's actually what makes them such an interesting animal to work with is this eagle has the opportunity to fly free. He goes thousands of feet in the sky, flies with the wild eagles, and he follows me as I flush out jackrabbits for him to catch. And if I'm not doing my job well, if I'm not able to flush jackrabbits efficiently enough for him, and he gets bored, he can spot a jackrabbit, 5 miles across the desert, and there he goes, and he'll go, and then I have to go track him down. And so we do have a small transmitter that we put on them to allow us to pick up a signal, a radio signal, and track them down. That's the transmitters do not get them back. If he doesn't want to come back, he doesn't have to. When he is flying, that's very much his choice. He's completely free, and he has the right to fly away and never come back if he wants. And so because of our falconry training, um, basically he has decided that he's our hunter and I'm his dog. And as long as I'm a really good dog, he keeps me. And so the reason he comes back is because I make his life easier, I make it more convenient for him. And so being an apex opportunistic predator, looking for the easiest meal, he knows if he follows me, I flush out rabbits. If he doesn't catch a rabbit, he flies back, lands on my glove, I feed him anyway. And so that's truly the relationship that we have. Even though I do believe he's a friend of mine, and we do enjoy each other's company, we do get to spend a lot of time together. But that's not the reason he comes back. He comes back because he exploits our relationship and me, and I'm very happy that he does. So it's kind of a unique partnership. Um, Scout was from Wyoming, and I got notification from the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service that a farmer felt that there was an eagle up in Wyoming that was a threat to his livestock, and I was given very special permits and permission to go to Wyoming and trap him and remove him from the situation. And so he was a full-grown wild eagle when I trapped him. Now, a lot of people ask me all the time, well, why don't you just turn him loose? Well, the problem is that we can't legally because he is what we call a depredation bird. Now, birds, most birds, but birds of prey especially, they migrate and they also return. Does that feel better? They also return to where they learned to fly. And so if we just turn him loose, he'll go back to Wyoming, and then the farmer will have the right to shoot him. And so birds like this that are considered depredation, if they're rescued, end up in a zoological park and they end up in a cage, and that's it. Because of my falconry, he gets to fly and gets to hunt and gets to be a wild eagle. And we still have them available for our school programs and scout programs and community vets. Hurry up, keep it on the plastic. Thank you, that's very sweet. Very polite. Yes, I like when you're polite, especially when we're indoors. Basically, eagles have a choice. They can mute, which means the poop goes straight down, or they can slice, which means from where I'm sitting, it would hit the kitchen counter. And so we're always greatly appreciated when he decides to mute and keep the poop on the plastic where it belongs. So that's where we got Scout. Now, Scout's not my first eagle. You know, I have been rescuing eagles uh, my whole life for about 50 years and have had many. Now, as personal eagles are concerned, he is my second eagle that I consider my personal eagle. Most of the other eagles that I've had have been rescues that the job was to return them back to the wild. Let me put this back a little bit so you can see the painting behind me. There we go. Okay, that painting that you see up there, that was my first eagle. That was my eagle. His name was Bud, and Bud was also a depredation bird, and he was here in Utah, and I was again asked to rescue him, for which we did. And Bud and I were together for 16 years, and he was bitten by a mosquito and died of West Nile virus. And so we lost Bud to West Nile. So far, Scout has been doing very well. We haven't had any West Nile infections. There is a vaccine that we can use. We're not exactly sure if the vaccine even works, but at least we have something we can try. And so far, we haven't had that issue, even though we still, for the last 30 years, have had West Nile here in Utah. And West Nile is spread by mosquitoes. If an adult eagle gets it, it's almost always a death sentence. And so we be very, very careful during, especially the late summer and early fall when West Nile seems to be more prevalent, to watch the birds very carefully, make sure they don't become infected. So that's my big boy. Bud was also, like I said, a depredation bird, and he was a very dear friend, just like Scout. The big difference between Scout and Bud is the size. Bud was a small male golden eagle, and he his flying weight was about 5.5 pounds. That's the weight that he flew at. Scout is a large male golden eagle, and he flies at about 8 pounds. So he's really quite large for a male. Yes, you are. You're a big boy. Um, on average, the golden eagles here in North America, they do range the males from 5 to 9 pounds, and the females from about 9 to about 14 pounds. And so if you have a 9 pound golden eagle, it's you're really guessing whether it's a very large male or a very small female. And Scout was kind of right up at that point where we know for sure now that he's definitely a male. But there are days when handling him, I'm going, uh, you're such a pretty little girl, you're a little tiny female, and then other days, oh my gosh, you're such a big boy. But yes, he is a big boy, and so we do know that for sure. And if anyone has questions, please feel free to ask about our wildlife ambassadors and what we're doing.
Well, we've got plenty of questions, but we also want to mention first that we've gotten some incredible donations. Yesterday, we began a fundraiser called Scout Supporter, and somebody donated $600, or I don't know if it was a group, but suddenly, boom, there was just a ton of money there. And then also
Oh
just now,
wow!
Tiffany Stokes donated $20, and Teresa sent in $70. And we got an anonymous donation of $5 and an anonymous donation of $20. So our Scout Supporter fund is up to $754.
Wow! Thank you so much, and Scout appreciates it as well. Again, that helps provide food for these animals. When you figure he'll eat 2 large rats a day, and the rats are between, if I get them on sale, they're about $5 a piece. They can be as much as $10 a piece for a large rat. So it can cost us as much as $20 a day just to feed him, not counting all of the other eagles that we rescue as well. And so your donations, we greatly appreciate it. It helps us to care for the animals that we're rescuing. Baby season has started. We're in full swing. Currently, we have 4 baby quail, baby mourning dove, 5 house finches, 5 hummingbirds, 3 roadrunners, and then a peregrine falcon, a bald eagle, a Harris hawk, and then my golden eagle, currently in our facilities at this moment.
And a poodle.
And so, and a poodle named Cody. But he's not a rescue. He's just basically he is thoroughly and completely in command of the home and home environment, and humans are to serve him. So he's we call him Dum Dum, and because he's just a sweet, silly, dumbest thing you ever saw. But then when you look at his lifestyle, you have to wonder, maybe he's smarter than all the rest of us, because all the rest of us have to work and we have stress and problems and things that we have to deal with, and he has absolutely none of that.
Well, he's definitely smarter than you, but probably not smarter than Scout.
Well, that's true. A brick is smarter than me, so that kind of goes without saying.
So we have a comment here we have to get in because this is Andy from Oli, and he or she got in real early. She says, I'm going to get my question in early so it's seen. So any of the falconry birds ever able to fly free outside of hunting season, or are they just perch potatoes off season?
They're pretty much perch potatoes off season, and the reason for that is that falconry is a very ancient form of hunting, and we have to have our all the appropriate not only falconry licenses and permits. We also have to have a hunting license like anybody else does, and we do not want to take, let's say, a peregrine falcon out and turn it loose and kill a mama duck who's got new babies this time of year. We don't want to do that, and we don't want to have Scout or Bell catch a mama jackrabbit who right now has babies. And so there is a season, and the season is to basically protect the wildlife. So even though in the wild, the wild eagles, catch rabbits this time of year, and they use that to provide food their chicks. But as a falconer, we try to respect all wildlife and not to be out there hunting when we could possibly leave animals orphaned. So yeah, they are a couch potato, and their motivation for hunting is or motivation for flying is hunting, is looking for food. But Scout right now, he's got about a third of a crop of food right here, and so he's had his breakfast, and he really has very little motivation. Uh, Not only very little motivation to actually go flying, but very little motivation if he were to be out flying and I'd whistle for him to come back, he'd say, "Why? I'm not hungry." He says, "I don't need to go back because I'm not hungry. Give me a day or two to be hungry, and then I'll come back to you." And so, it's not like your dog or cat that just kind of feeds and still jumps up in your lap and wants to be cuddled. That's not the way this works.
Okay,
Pretty boy.
from Rex, hi there. I own pigeons and was wondering if it is common for an eagle to catch a pigeon to eat. I know hawks and falcons do, but would pigeon be too small of a meal for an eagle?
Well, that's a good question. The truth of the matter is, even a really good falcon um, uh, that's in 1,000 feet in the sky in a great position, or a flock of pigeons go underneath, and a falcon dives vertically at 200 miles an hour. It only has about a 20% chance of actually catching the pigeon, because if a pigeon spots that falcon coming, the pigeon twitches either right or left, and the falcon goes by, and then the pigeon at level flight can outrun the falcon. And a hawk, the same thing, where a hawk is an ambush hunter, where a hawk will sit up in a tree and spot some pigeons, feeding on the ground. The hawk will fly in. If the pigeon sees the hawk coming and can jump out of the way, the hawk passes and the pigeons are gone. And so with something as big as this eagle, the odds of him being able to catch a pigeon and also to be secretive enough to get close enough to catch a pigeon, it would be extremely rare. Now, if there's a falcon on the ground eating its freshly caught pigeon, and an eagle flies down and says, "Oh, that falcon's got a pigeon. I'm going to eat the pigeon." If the falcon doesn't fly away and relinquish the pigeon, the eagle will eat the falcon and then eat the pigeon. So basically, it's kind of like if you get a cheetah, feeding on an antelope kill, and a pride of lions comes through, the cheetah leaves the kill and the lions have it, because the cheetah has no chance of fighting against a big African lion. So that's kind of the way it is with the birds of prey.
Okay, we got a loaded audience here. Mark Housekeeper says, I think Scout is going to eat Martin's ear.
Hey, Mark. Hope you're having a good vacation with the family. And Scout has never ever attempted to hurt me, and I've been very grateful for that. I tell people all the time, are you worried about your eagle, biting your nose off or ripping your ear off or any of those kinds of things? And the truth of the matter is, there's only two reasons that this eagle is going to hurt me. The first of which is that he's afraid of me, and if he's afraid of me, they've got a very strong fight or flight response, and if they're afraid, they will, and they can't get away, they will attack, and that can make them incredibly dangerous. So as long as my eagle is not afraid of me, we're fine. And the second issue is if I look like food. And since I don't look like a rabbit, and he's obviously not afraid of me, we're pretty safe when handling them.
So we got
yeah.
Okay, we got another donation from Lon Bryant for $5. Bryant, sorry, I think maybe. And also we got a comment from Teresa about she donated $70 that we mentioned earlier, and she says, I donated 1 penny for each feather.
Well, thank you. Well, that's very kind of you. And like I said, it's just wonderful how generous you folks are and working with us.
And Tiffany Stokes asks, how did you know for sure that he was a male?
Well, like I said, the first way that we tell with all birds of prey, it's pretty simple. The females are a third larger. But like I said, when you get one that's up, a male that's up, close to 9 pounds, or a female that's down close to 9 pounds, it's really, really tough to know if they're a male or female. And then you just have to go by behavior. And Scout is a fully mature adult golden eagle, and during the late winter he shows his courtship behaviors, and his courtship behaviors are very, very much the male courtship behaviors, and so he's very definitely a male. Now there is a way that you can stick a scope up and look and see the genitalia and know for sure if it's a male or female. But the truth of the matter is, I don't want to harass them that way, and there really is no need. He's just a nice big male, and we're quite confident about that.
Okay, FPS, if you could wave a magic wand and allow rehabilitators like yourself to band raptors, would you care for and release?
It would be, yeah, it would be wonderful if we could band the birds just before release. That would be terrific, because what that would offer to us is the some scientific data that would tell us, a little bit about the percentages of success. And so if let's say we release an eagle back to the wild, and the eagle shows up 5 years or 10 years later, dead, hit by a car or whatever, then we know that our efforts as a wildlife rehabilitator were successful because the bird, lived another 5 or 10 years. And that would be some really good information to have. But at this moment, once we release them back to the wild, then we have no information. And would it make a huge difference? No, not really. It wouldn't make much of a difference, for the simple fact that all we can do with these guys is give them a second chance. And so even, like I said, the house finches and the quail and the roadrunners and everything else that we've got in here right now, all we can do is release them, give them a second chance. If the quail gets caught and eaten by a Cooper's hawk, they've fulfilled their biological destiny just like a wild quail would have. And so I consider that as success.
Okay, NDS says, good morning, Martin and Susan. Which bird among Helen, Belle, and Scout is the most active? And have you ever worked with California condor as part of wildlife rehabilitation?
As far as the most active, Belle is the most, by far the best hunter. Helen, unfortunately, because of her vision, there's not much opportunity for her to be active. She does like to come in the house and sit here in the living room with the TV on. She likes to watch the television. With her bad vision, she can see the lights for the television and the colors and the movement, which kinds of entertains her. But she doesn't get the opportunity to fly and to hunt and those kinds of things. Scout is not nearly as efficient a hunter as Bell the Harris hawk because of his tremendous size, and so his efficiency is much, much lower. But the truth of the matter is, as far as birds that are, personality and affectionate and just a sheer joy to work with, I don't think there's another bird on the planet that is more fun and interesting than Scout. He is, with me, he's very sweet. He's very gentle. He's very sociable. At times when we're out doing our shows together, he's gotten to the point where he knows the shows very, very well, and he starts looking for reasons to tease me. And so when we're doing shows, he'll I'll have my glasses in my pocket, and he'll reach up and take my glasses and throw them out to the audience, or he'll reach over and chew buttons off my shirt, just to be silly. So as far as intelligence and personality, the Eagles is really, really hard to beat. And that's assuming that you've handled them correctly, because if you don't handle them correctly, this is an 8-pound creature that will put you in the hospital on a regular basis. They can be quite dangerous. So don't ever assume that an eagle is a sweet, gentle animal and would make a good pet, because They really don't. Now, as far as the condor question is concerned, I have worked a little bit with condors. I worked with, when I was the curator of Birds of Prey at Busch Gardens in California, we had a couple of condors come in for rehab at that facility. And then I've been called in a couple of times here in Utah to babysit some condors that came into civilization, were hanging out of the roofs of people's houses and those kinds of things to make sure that they didn't get into any trouble and nobody hurt them. But we do have a new facility that we're getting ready to start building that we'll talk about soon, that will be a flight chamber big enough for eagles and condors. And so we're very excited about getting that project off the ground.
Okay. Jeanette asks, how often does Scout fly really high?
I would say most of the time we're hunting and flying, flying up, 5,000-10,000 feet. They're really, there's not much purpose for that because you're just that much further away from your food source. And so most of the time, an eagle will sit up on ledges or sit up on power poles and power towers and those kinds of things, and then watch to see if they can spot something they can kind of swoop down and go catch. And so Scout's been up where he's disappeared from my vision, and that would be, probably better than 2,000 feet. But he was only gone for, out of my visual range for a short period of time, because basically what he did is he decided that I was boring and I wasn't flushing rabbits, and he ended up, catching a rabbit or going after a rabbit miles away, and I had to go track him down. So it's not that he just flies to altitudes super high, but he'll go look for food if I'm not doing my job.
Okay. Sandra's asked, the work you do is the work of angels. I was wondering if you have an apprentice or looking for someone who can not only give you a break, but carry on in the future.
Well, actually, I do occasionally take on apprentices. In fact, an earlier question was from Mark Housekeeper, and he was one of my students. My goodness sakes, I think he's been one of my students for now close to 30 years. And so I do take on apprentices from time to time. Falconry is certainly not for everyone. It's not a hobby. It truly is a lifestyle, and it's very complicated, and most people are not willing to dedicate their life to something like this. And if you're not willing to dedicate your life to it, you're not going to be happy trying to be a falconer, because there's no such thing as being a part-time weekend falconer. It just doesn't work. And since you mentioned it, let me grab my book here. Here's my book, and the title is Healer of Angels. I had a good segue to introducing my book. Healer of Angels, this is my life story. This is 40 years of wildlife rescue stories and the wisdom of grandparents. The eagle that's on the cover of the book right here, that is Scout. That's my boy. That's his picture. And anyway, if you like animal stories, this is a very fun read. If you order it off our website, we get the profits from the sale of the book, and it helps to feed the animals. And if you order it off the website, you will get this copy, which is very, very special, because it's an autographed copy, not only signed by my sweet wife Susan and I, but also signed by Scout, my golden eagle. Let's see if I get that to show up. Oh, there you go. That's his footprint. So it's the only book in the world autographed by a wild eagle. And like I said, the profits from the sale of the book go to our wildlife rescue center to help us feed the animals that we care for. And again, you can get these on Amazon, but Barnes and Noble, and I don't know if Barnes and Noble carries any more, but Amazon does. But if you get them off the website, then the profits come to us. We appreciate that.
So we have two comments related to your book. The first one, I think, is anyway, it says, Martin Tyner feet pics win. think maybe that's in relation to Scout's feet picks.
I think so. I think that's those big, beautiful talons of Scouts.
And Camellia D says, "Who got the idea of the book's title, Healer of Angels?"
Actually, the Susan and I sat down, um, and I travel around the country and I do these wonderful wildlife program lectures on raptors and tell lots of silly stories about the animals at the live lectures. And Susan says, "Well, we wouldn't it be nice if we wrote these stories down so that we would have them available for our grandchildren?" And so I thought that was a great idea. So we sat down for probably about 6 months. Every evening that I wasn't out traveling doing shows, we would sit down and you have to imagine this how much I love my sweet wife Susan. We would literally cuddle up on the couch with a computer in our laps, and and we would write the stories and edit the stories and just kind of work as a couple together. And it was an amazing experience to sit down and really help bring Susan and I even closer as friends. And so as the book continued to grow and to develop, we really didn't have a plan of writing a book, just stories to pass along to the grandkids and great grandkids and so on. Um, it started to kind of turn into a book, and there's a story in the book, and I don't want to ruin the story for you, but there's a story in the book about a very dear friend. He has passed away. He was a Paiute shaman, medicine man, and it's a story about him, and it's a story about a blessing and a prayer, uh, and so on. Anyway, like I said, I don't want to get into too many details, but the name for the book came out of that story, and that's how we named the book "A Healer of Angels."
Maybe we should mention why Susan is currently banished.
Well, Susan, she's truly amazing. She helps me a great deal, especially with the smaller animals. I mean, like I said, right now we've got baby cottontails, we've got quail, we've got roadrunners, we've got finches, we've got hummingbirds, we've got all these beautiful little tiny birds. Um, and she's really good with that stuff. And of course, the way Susan and I make our living is we own a dog grooming shop, and and she is just phenomenal at working with the dogs and cats and the domestic animals as well. But she has a bit of a nervous temperament, and especially the birds of prey, they really pick up on that. And so, because Susan's kind of fidgety, uh, the birds of prey aren't real comfortable. And so, if Susan walks into the room, as sweet and wonderful as she is, um, the birds just get really nervous around her. And so whenever I've got the live birds out and we're doing this, if Susan just sits in a chair quietly, she's fine. But she doesn't sit very well, and she likes to move around, and she likes to fidget with things and back and forth, and that just makes the birds nervous. So when we're doing these programs, uh, Susan will go out and do the things that she loves to do while I handle the big birds.
A couple of comments from. Whoops, I just unmarked it. Oops. We have one comment from Wyoming Adventures. A rancher in my area is wanting to get rid of golden eagles again. I hate it when they do that. The eagles were here first. I live in Buffalo, Wyoming.
Well, absolutely, and the way it works, so that you understand, is farmers can get permission to shoot almost anything. They really can if they feel it's a threat to their livelihood. Um, they basically apply through the Department of Agriculture. Department of Agriculture's job is to protect the farmers. The Department of Agriculture then notifies the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, and if they're and there's a lot of politics involved. So this is not as easy as this is sounding. But can't the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service can basically contact a falconer who is qualified to work eagles, and give that falconer the authority to go and to trap and remove the eagle from the location. And that's the way that I got Scout. And but like I said, it's a very, very long process and very, very time consuming to be able to do this. And there are so very few people in North America that lives in a place, and that has not only the skills but lives in a place where eagle falconry is suitable. If you live in back east, there's just no place for eagles to hunt, and you don't have large enough quarry. You might have cottontails and briars, but you don't have jackrabbits in the open desert like the eagles need if you're going to do that. And so you really have to live in an environment that is suitable for the eagles to hunt in. And and so basically out here in the West, and Wyoming's a great place for eagles. And if somebody wanted to be an eagle falconer, that's actually a very good place to live to fly eagles.
Another comment from Wyoming Adventures: wore my Scout T-shirt yesterday, and people were asking me about it.
Oh, wonderful. Well, that's great advertisement for our wildlife rescue work, and we appreciate that.
And DD says, greetings from a very cold South Africa.
Well, welcome from South Africa. You've got some amazing raptors in South Africa that I would love to come and personally be able to work with and to see. I know here. Yes, it's okay. She'll stay in the kitchen. I promise. I promise. Well, she's got to feed babies. You're just gonna have to put up with it, Scout. But anyway, you've got some amazing animals there. One eagle in particular that I have a great fondness for is I had an opportunity to do a little work with a Marshall's eagle, which is an African eagle, and one of the most beautiful, beautiful eagles. About the size, maybe slightly larger than a golden. Built very much like a golden, but they're much much brighter in color. Just gorgeous animals. So welcome from South Africa. You guys, it's your winter down there, and it's our summer, and we've got the air conditioner on to help keep Scout cool. So thank you.
Okay, from Baltimore Actual, after all the important questions are answered, can you share one of your great old stories from your years of falconry?
From my years of falconry, uh, falconry is such an intimate part of my life that finding someone who could share my life and survive in my world um, is is a really tough thing to do. Um, when I was dating, I'd be handling these big animals, and most of the girls that I dated were, they thought it was really cool until they saw the animals up close. Then all of a sudden they were afraid, and the amount of mess, falling out dead rats on the kitchen windowsill. Um, you never know what's in my refrigerator as far as food for these animals. It takes a really, really special kind of a person to do that. And so I would purposefully, any young lady that I had an interest in, I would take them out hawking with me to get them to see if they could survive this. And back in California, I had a female Harris hawk. Her name was Sierra, very much the same as my Harris hawk Belle. She was a large female. She was a rescue. Some kids had stolen her from a nest. They abused her. She ended up with a broken leg. Anyway, long story short, she was emotionally disturbed. She couldn't be put back in the wild, but she was healthy, And so I kept her as one of my falconry birds and one of my wildlife educational animals, and everything was fine. But she was very dangerous, and she was very, very aggressive. And so one of when Susan and I went out on our very first date, I took her out hunting with old Sierra, the big female harris hawk that was so dangerous, and just to see how they would respond and see how Susan would respond to this very, very big, powerful, efficient hunting bird. And so we parked out in the fields, got the hawk out of my car onto my glove, like Scout is right now. And as Susan, as my then girlfriend but now wife, approached, my hawk turned around and faced her and growled violently at her. And then my hawk turned back around facing me, lifted her tail, and pooped on Susan. That was our first date. She married me anyway, it's her fault. Well, we have that story is in my book, and I tell that story at a lot of my shows, and people get a kick out of it. And Susan said, when we write the book, she says, if you're going to tell everybody about our first date, you have to tell everybody about the rest of our first date. And I says, no, the story's funnier where I end the story where you get pooped on. And she says, no, you have to tell everybody about the rest of our first date. And so I said, Susan, if you want to tell everybody about the rest of our first date, you have to write the story. So she did. And so if you want to learn about the rest of our first date and why this very sweet, wonderful young lady married me, you got to buy a copy of my book. I know, that's terrible. And yes, you can get it at gowildlife.org. And like I said, the money goes to rescue the critters, but there's a lot of very fun stories in the book. Another little falconry story, just for the sake of it, so you kind of understand what falconry is. Many years ago, I had a small group of falconers come to Cedar City. I know, you're okay. I had a small group of falconers come to Cedar City and wanted to go hunting together. And it was winter time, and snow on the ground. It was quite cold, but most of the hunting season's in the winter anyway, so that's normal. And so we went out to the west, out by the college farm, where there's alfalfa fields and there's irrigation ditches and things where you could find pheasants, ducks, and rabbits out in that area for our birds to chase and to attempt to catch. And so we went out by the college farm, and this one jackrabbit took off running, and it ran out across the field, and one of the hawks was chasing the rabbit, and the hawk basically ran across an irrigation canal that was frozen, and the ice broke, and the rabbit ended up in the irrigation canal, the frozen canal, with about a real thin layer of ice across the top of the canal. And so myself and a couple of other guys, we ran in. We saw the rabbit was struggling. It was gonna freeze and drown in the water, and so three of us literally jumped into the irrigation canal, and it was up to our chest, and we struggle over. We get to the rabbit. We pick up the rabbit, and we get the rabbit out of the irrigation canal. Wrap the rabbit up in our coats, and we're freezing to death. Wrap the rabbit up in our coats to dry the rabbit off and warm it up. We bring the rabbit home. I get my wife's hair dryer out, handheld dryer, and we blow dry the rabbit, and we get it all dry and make sure the rabbit was okay. And we took the rabbit back out and we released it back to the wild. And a lot of people just can't understand, well, you're hunting this rabbit. Why did you literally try to freeze yourself to death to save a rabbit that you're just going to let your hawk catch and kill and eat? Well, that wouldn't have been fair. The truth of the matter is, it really is not about putting food on the table. It's the experience of a partnership between an apex predator and human is the relationship. And what they do is hunt. That's fine. We respect that and we allow them to do what they do. But it really has very little to do with whether they catch anything or not. It has everything to do with doing it as appropriately and as humanely as possible. So that not only are the birds cared for properly, but the animals that they catch are dispatched in as humane a way as possible. And in that situation, it wasn't fair for the rabbit to drown in the irrigation canal, and so it needed to be rescued. And I know there's a lot of people out there that think I'm just dumb as a brick, and you're probably right, but that is the how the ethics of falconry should work.
Hey, question from Andy. Which one flies higher or farther to get prey, Scout or Bell?
Scout, definitely. Bell hunts off my glove. Bell's furthest flights are usually not more than 300 to 400 yards away from me. And Bell generally doesn't fly any higher than about 20 feet. The golden eagle, like I said, he'll fly up on the ridges. He'll be a half a mile, even as much as 5 miles away at altitudes, sometimes reaching over 1,000 feet, and then catching a rabbit, like I said, as many as 5 miles away. So it changes a great deal, but the scout is hunts more from altitude and from ledges and telephone poles where my hawk hunts off my glove.
Rex asks, are eagles' eyes able to turn, or are they fixed in the socket like an owl's eye?
They're fixed in the socket like an owl's eye, and a falcon's eyes are the same way. And so this is why they move their heads so much, because their eyes don't move like ours do. And so in order to change perspective, they have to move their heads. And that's why you see owls and falcons and eagles and things move and bob their heads so much.
Chris says, hello from Germany. Just like to say that I really love the work you do.
Well, thank you, Chris, and welcome from Germany. You've got some great eagle falconers out there. I've corresponded with a couple of them over the years, and really great people. The only problem with Europe is the falconry seasons are very short, and you almost have to literally be a nomad moving from country to country to country to make the different falconry seasons to have enough time to fly your birds well. But yeah, Germany's a beautiful place to fly birds.
EH asks, does Scout have any territorial disputes with wild eagles when you take him out to fly?
Does he have any territorial disputes with wild eagles? Well, and again, that's kind of my job is we fly him through the hunting season, but when the courtship season starts, and he does at the beginning of the courtship season, he will fly with the wild eagles. In fact, the truth of the matter is if he finds a pretty little lady eagle that's cuter than I am, he does have the right to pair bond with her and to fly away and never come back. I do not own Scout. I serve him well, and the truth of the matter is, because Scout and I've been together 16 years, 17 years, it's just and he hasn't found a pretty little lady eagle and flown away yet. That's just absolute proof that I'm adorable, and so he keeps me. But when the eagles in the area do start to pair bond and they start to defend territories during the nesting season, that's the end of the falconry season, and we don't fly him because we don't want him to get in a fight with a territorial eagle that it'd be bad for everybody.
VA asks, how much does he weigh?
His flying weight's about 8 pounds.
Now, I have a question. Do you have one arm that's stronger than the other from carrying Scout around so much?
Do I have one arm that's stronger than the other? Well, the truth of the matter is I used to always carry my eagle on my right arm because my right arm was the strongest. And so I would make my gloves, my falconry gloves, and I would custom make them to be right, to sit on my right arm for my strength. But after 30 years of flying eagles, the strain and where the strain really occurs is in the joint right here in the shoulder, right here in the socket. It's where because that's where all the pressure is you're being pulled away because of the tremendous weight. And when an eagle lands on your arm, the jolt on your body is quite severe. And I had to have reconstructive surgery on my right shoulder and the rotor cuff area and so on. And so I've transferred all of my carrying of my eagles, especially to my left arm, and I could feel it. I could feel the strain and the issues. And the truth of the matter is, when it gets to the point that I have to have reconstructive surgery again to fix my left arm, then I'll transfer my eagles to my right arm until the right arm goes out, and that'll be the end of my ability to handle eagles. And so it's not that it's stronger; it's more to the point that they get damaged.
Okay. NDS asks, I think that Martin would have to be dealing with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Government Agency occasionally. In general, how helpful, bureaucratic is that agency to rehabilitators such as yourself?
Well, the truth of the matter is, it really depends on the region of the country because each regional office, their policies are a little bit different. And I've had rehabilitators that I've talked to in different parts of the country that have tremendously good working relationships with the regional office, and it's relatively easy to get your permits and to do everything that you need. Other regions are very much against wildlife rehab work. Overall, the Fish and Wildlife Service considers wildlife rescue as biologically insignificant, and they would rather that people don't. And so some regions make it significantly more difficult. And out here in the West, it seems to be more difficult. Out in the East Coast, it's okay, Scott. So it depends on the region that you live in. And depends on the office and who you're dealing with. There's inevitably there is always some secretary somewhere that refuses to process your permit, and I have that problem here quite frequently. For just a renewal, I had an education permit and it's at the time it was a 3-year permit, and it took me 5 years to get my 3-year permit renewed, just because the secretary in the office just wasn't going to do it and just left it on her desk. And when she was replaced with someone else, I got a phone call basically saying, "We've got this education permit. It's been sitting here for 5 years. What's going on?" And it says, "Yeah, well, they haven't renewed my permit, and I continue to do my educational program, and I continue to contact your agency, occasionally making sure that that I'm still waiting for the permit. So I've done my part. Would you please process my permit?" And that individual just that day signed the permit and mailed it off to me. So it just depends on the office that you're working with and the attitude of the bureaucrats within the office.
CJ asks, can golden eagles and bald eagles tolerate each other?
Well, to some degree, bald eagles especially, bald eagles will feed in groups. In fact, I've got a nice photograph of 30 bald eagles feeding on a elk carcass that had been dumped after the hunt out on the desert, and they'll feed as a group. They squabble a bit. They generally don't have an issue. You generally don't see golden eagles doing that. Golden eagles are more solitary. When a golden eagle comes in for one purpose and one purpose only, and that's to steal food. And if you don't get out of their way, they're going to eat you instead, kind of a thing. So golden eagles are not as communal. This is why if you go up into places like Alaska, around Sitka, especially where the fishing trawlers come in, the eagles are hanging around, looking to pick up scraps, and there'll be dozens, if not even hundreds, of bald eagles, all in the same area looking for a free meal.
Well, if you're up to it, we have a comment. Someone who would like an update on Cirrus and Piper.
Okay, Cirrus and Piper. Now, Cirrus and Piper, it's a bit of a sad story. I had this very nice female prairie falcon. Her name was Cirrus. Um, uh, Not the best hunter that I've ever had, but she was really a nice bird. She did programs quite well, and I thought, I'm really getting old, and having the ability to go up and rappel off cliffs. I just can't do that very much anymore. Wouldn't it be nice to have a pair of prairie falcons here, put up video cameras where people could watch the pair, and and um, and it would be a nice educational thing. And that way, the young that pair of prairie falcons could raise some young, and I could return the young back to the wild, have one more pair of prairie falcons producing chicks that we can put back in the wild. Sounded like a great idea. So we got a little male prairie falcon. His name was Piper, and Piper was just wonderful. He was deadly. He wasn't very sociable, where Cirrus was quite a nice bird to work with. Piper just would try to kill anything that flew, and so interesting combination between the super aggressive male and the more mild mannered female. Um, when I got Piper as a small chick, Cirrus was old enough to be a mom, and so very carefully I introduced the two together when Piper was a chick, and Cirrus just took right to Piper, and she raised him, and it looked like this was going to be just a great situation where she basically would feed Piper and take care of him, and so he was raised by her, and then I took him back and flew him in falconry until he was old enough, which was about 3 years old. And so Cirrus is old enough now, Piper's old enough now. And so at the end of the falconry season, we put them in a chamber together so that hopefully by a year later that they would be pair bonded and they could start raising babies. And so we're all excited and things were going well. And for about almost a year, and then one day I walked out to give fresh food and water to my pair of prairie falcons, and everything looked great. Except now Piper was dead, and he was partially eaten by Cirrus. And so Cirrus killed Piper. Why, I have no idea. They really were a great pair, but something, I don't know if something had frightened them at night and upset her. I don't know what the issue was, but Cirrus basically killed Piper and ate part of him. And so that was the end of the breeding project concept. And we could get another male. By the time we get another male and get it raised up for about 3 years to where Cirrus would be getting out of the breeding age. And so we decided that if she's going to have any success at all in breeding, that she needs to go back to the wild. So we hacked her back to the wild so that she would have an opportunity to find a sexually mature male, and hopefully that they could pair bond, and hopefully she wouldn't kill him. So it was very, very, very sad that we lost Piper. He was such a terrific little bird, but these are wild animals, and sometimes you just can't predict what's going to happen.
Well, we're at the end of our hour.
Okay, well, it's been a lot of fun for Scout and I, and we appreciate all of you guys' interest. We appreciate the donations that you make for us. Please keep in touch. We've got a lot of videos and information coming up. We're going to do a video here very shortly about our new Raptor Rescue Center that we're getting ready to break ground on, and And so we want to bring everybody up to speed on what's going on with the foundation. So please stay tuned. And any last questions before we call it a day?
I think we can call it a day.
We can call her a day. Well, thank you, everybody, and please, be safe, be healthy, and hope to talk to you soon.